high pressure environments. Fresh out of the military, he's now navigating his first role in the civilian sector as a third party relationship manager at USAA, where he serves as a strategic link between business units and external partners. What's unique about Gary's perspective today is that he's living the military to civilian transition right now, learning the differences, spotting the similarities, and adapting in real time. He's here to share not only the leadership and operational lessons from his service, but also what he's discovering day to day in this new chapter. Welcome, Garrett. I managed to get it all. You don't have the long CV on the civilian side to go with, so
That's pretty scary that you can find all that information without even asking me. Bunch of lies. I don't know.
hey, I didn't say like knuckle dragging ammo guy.
Let's keep it real. If we're gonna keep it real, let's keep it real.
Well, I was a crew chief, so I'm sure you've cursed at many of my kind as well.
No, that was perfect. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Awesome. So, hey, I'll get started. So, after 20 years in the Air Force, what's been the biggest whoa, this is different moment since you started there?
Yeah, I think for me it was the humility as far as when I first started going through a transition, started SkillBridge. I think like many of us, right, got ready. We had our education, we had our bullet points, we had our leadership that we did in the military and whatever. And we thought that was going to transition very easy and everyone's going to be at the door knocking. I will tell you that that is not the case. Uh, but at the same time, the experience that you bring to the team is invaluable. But transitioning and translating that to the team was the biggest shocker for me. And it was one of the hardest things that I had to learn.
Really? So, I mean, what do you think? What was something you kind of expected to be hard, but turned out to be easy then?
Once you get your foot in the door, once you get your foot in the door, provided that you do not bring your rank to the company, because that's a big no, which I've seen a lot of my peers actually they bring the rank, they don't forget it, they try to change things all of a sudden. So that part, once you get in the door and you start working, you realize how much you actually value you bring to the table. For example, I never thought for a second, third party relationship manager, I didn't even know what that was, right? Until I was transitioning and looking at what it meant and everything like that. And even when I got into the role, there was a lot to learn. But what I realized really, really quick is some of my team members that have been in the business for 10, 15, 20 years, some experience that you bring to the table is invaluable for them. And they're craving that mentorship, they're craving that leadership. So that was kind of the easy part of rolling in and providing advice as far as the leadership scope, not necessarily the technical aspects of the job, but as far as like relationship building, communication, simple things as, hey, someone that's been in this business for 15 years is asking me to look over their email to see if the communication is proper when it goes out to the execs of the other third party or whatever like that. So these are kind of the skills that was easy for me once I realized they were needed.
So, was there any that were, oh crap, this is harder than I thought?
Yeah. Um, the hardest part for me, and like I said from the beginning, I'm gonna be real. The hardest part for me was kind of sitting back and not trying to inject my opinions or what. So in other words, if there was an issue going on, they'll brainstorm the what solutions do we have for this problem. And given your experience and our experience in the military, we are bred to solve problems. So one of the things that was harder for me was kind of back and just let everyone brainstorm instead of taking over and saying, hey, this is the path that we need to go. This is how we have to solve this problem.
Do you feel like that eventually they get to like, did they like in one of those cases, did they eventually get to where you were thinking, or was there a different solution?
That's a very good question, and that's what leads to the next. You want to make sure that you're humble enough Because if you go into the meetings right off the bat and you say, hey, I know how to solve this problem, this X, Y, Z, and you 99% of the time you do know how to solve that problem. But it's just the approach of when you go into those meetings. So it's best to kind of just sit back, listen to everything, and then just say, hey, what about this idea? Right? What about if we try to solve this problem in this manner? And you kind of guide it that way instead of coming in and saying, hey, this is what's going to work, this is how we need to do it, and this is the path forward. So kind of just sitting back, listening to everything, being humble and interjecting yourself as let's brainstorm this idea, but at the same time, you're guiding your team towards what you already know is probably the solution. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it kind of sounds to me almost like when you first get brought into those meetings with all the commanders, as an enlisted guy, because I was there and like the first time in those meetings doing recruiting stuff, it was STFU. Just shut up, listen, go last, because almost no matter what you say is not going to be the what they want to hear until you've kind of made your bones there and built up a reputation. And then, okay, let's listen to what this guy's got to say. Is it somewhat similar to that feel?
Absolutely, and that would be the biggest advice I have for this in this group. When you move into the corporate America, is kind of sit back, for a month, 2 months, listen to everything that's going on, how they're interacting, whatever team you're injected in, how they're interacting, what the norms are, because there are definitely norms in the civilian sector, and just slowly interject yourself and build because you do. You have the leadership skills, you have the soft skills, you've been mentoring, some of you on here 200, 300 in a school. You had direct hires of 50 or 20. So you know how to do all these things. The hardest part for me was kind of restraining myself and putting myself in a seat as the new guy or the new gal, right? And letting everyone else, and then slowly interject yourself, and you will build credibility. And once you build that credibility, you'll realize they'll start coming to you and everything else. I've also seen the come in and right in the first meeting, they're like, "Well, I was chief master sergeant in the Air Force, or I was a command sergeant major," and not saying that verbatim, but playing that role in the meetings. And I would highly recommend that we don't do that.
Yeah.
Because in the civilian sector, there's no such thing as rank, and you'll learn that really quick.
Yeah, and if they don't like you, it's not like you're canceling a contract. They're like, yeah, I don't think that guy needs to be here anymore. And if you have the best ideas in the world, your approach means all the difference.
It does, and it's a balanced approach. And the approach that we had in the military is not the same approach that you're going to have in the civilian sector. I would I would highly recommend that you don't take that approach in the military. Like, hey, you need to fix this now. It's a more soft skills come in. So if you're not there yet, I would highly recommend that you work those soft skills and those approaches, because it's not going to be, I need you to do this because I told you to do this, and this is the reason why. We can't approach it that way. There's a lot of explaining why you're doing it and giving the proper advice to build the entire team as far as cohesive and intrusive.
Hey, rebuild your rank through credibility. You're coming in as an E1, nobody, with tons of experience, but you gotta, hey, I'm the new dude. So I mean, how would you say your day-to-day schedule has changed from taking the uniform off to, throwing on the button down?
It's amazing. It's amazing. The biggest thing is realizing how silent the house is. Your phone's not ringing off the hook after hours. That's not a thing anymore, at least in my situation. Um, there's not a million different text messages, group chats that you're in, and everything like that. There's some chats that you're going to be in, and depending on your corporation or your company you're working with, and everything like that. But in my situation, it's been pretty awesome because working in corporate USAA, you have a schedule, but you make sure that you take care of your stuff, and you can use that schedule however you want to use it. It's 4 days in office and then one day working from home. But overall, just having a lot of time, extra time to actually spend with your family and everything. This is my situation. It's been amazing as far as that goes.
Yeah. So, I mean, are you seeing more of the, I, I am confident I know the answer to this, but how long did it take you to basically turn the phone off and turn the computer off at 5 o'clock instead of, oh, I got to get this done?
That I'm still working on that.
Mm.
I am still working on that. That is something that's in us that we never shut off, right? 24/7. We got tasks. We're gonna fire off on the weekends. We're gonna fire off at night and everything. And I'll tell you that's a major taboo. In fact, in one of my first feedback sessions, right, the vice president, he said, look, I need you to really work on not sending emails after 4 p.m. and not send emails on the weekend. So I was sending them because that's just our MO. We work at home, we work in the office, we make sure to take care of stuff, not thinking, right? Thinking they're not going to see it until Monday anyhow. But what they're looking at is like, when is that timestamp? Right. So that was a major thing that I had to get over, and I'm still working on that because I'm like, I got a task, I gotta take care of it. I don't care what time it is, what day it is of the week, I gotta take care of it. But yeah, so still working on that, but getting a lot better.
Yeah, one of the tricks I discovered a long time ago was you can go into Outlook and say, "Don't send until,"
Right.
like, set it,
Rules,
forget it.
all the rules.
I didn't
Yep.
send that till 9 a.m. Right on the dot. Yeah, I was at work, boss. 17 emails. Hmm.
I spent 21 years in the military and I didn't realize you could set those rules. Well, I knew you could set the rules, but that was never a thing. It's like take care of it, fire it off now, but you're absolutely correct. And that is actually an advice that I was given from a director. He said, hey, just set a rule. If you're working the weekend, set a rule for like Monday at 9 a.m. or something. So
Yeah, it's a great trick to know. So I mean, along with that, so what's the biggest cultural difference that you feel every day that's changed? Military corp.
so I work with USAA, which is very close and mirrors a lot of our military regimen, the way we operate, even a lot of our acronyms and stuff like that. But I think the culture shock that I have is I personally don't feel like the relationships that I had in the military and what we get in the military, they're very different on the civilian sector, on the civilian side. And you'll have to get used to that. And that's why networking is so important, especially if you have a hard time transitioning, which is real talk. Some of us have a hard time transitioning. I highly recommend that you look into other groups, veterans that can understand you, because there's a lot of our humor, a lot of the way we communicate. It doesn't work that way in the civilian sector, and that goes back to what I said earlier. Take like the first month and just be quiet, listen, look at the norms, how they communicate, how they operate within teams, because it is different. Um, and that has been kind of the shifting for me is the relationships, which I get through other. I'm in San Antonio, which is huge for veterans,
Oh,
so
yeah.
I get through other groups, VetNet and everything else. Get my fix of this is normal. This is what feels right until you fully transition. So I recommend you find a group, try to stay in that military if you're having a hard time transitioning, and it worked that way because that was the hardest thing for me is transitioning over.
Yeah, the nice thing about living in San Antonio for you is you can't swing a dead cat without hitting somebody who's either in the military or was in the military, and you can get that dark humor out then.
Exactly. Don't do that in office in corporate America. You may get a smile in the meetings, but you probably get called in after. So
Like, are you depressed? No, everything's great. Why?
right, right.
Hey, Robert's got a question. Go ahead, sir.
So you mentioned you're in San Antonio. Can you send me a list of those organizations you might have? Because I'm also in San Antonio.
Yeah, I'll put my email. Well, how about you send me put your email in the chat and I will send you. Are you here in San Antonio, Robert? You said?
Yeah, I live in Stone Oak.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah. So put your email in there and I'll send you different connects.
So, so I mean, what would you say the most useful military skill, other than shut up and color, is still serving you now during this transition period to kind of guide you in the right direction?
Many. Or corporate America is craving your leadership, right? The play is to make sure that you get in there. You have to get your foot in there, right? And then you got to go in there and not go in so aggressive as you spoke, right? Sit back and listen. But corporate America, they're craving the work ethic, right? Not complaining a lot, taking care of business, getting tasks done on time, or even better, which is it blows my mind if you get a task done ahead of time. And everyone's like, "Oh, that is awesome," right? But those are the things, the foundation that we got from the military, and then just your leadership skills, your ability to read the room, your ability to build teams, invaluable. And you will see that once you come in, it'll be very intimidating. It was for me when I joined corporate America. It's very intimidating. Talking to some of my peers that's on the team and everything like that. But then you quickly realize how much you bring to the table and how much they're craving to learn from you, especially those leadership and those soft skills that you've mastered over the years of trial and error. Just everything came at you and you learned all those skills. Those are so that translation to the civilian sector is it's your money. It's your money maker. It's going to be what's going to make you shine. So yeah, that's I leave the leadership skills and those soft skills that you bring.
Are there any of those skills that you're still struggling with to translate?
I think the one that I'm struggling with more is providing advice that's not very directive in nature. So in the military, right, when we provide advice, especially if you're at a certain level or whatever, it's very directive in nature, because we got to get the job done. So been working a lot on how do I say this without coming across like this is what you need to do, right? And say like, hey, this is where we need to go as a team and to get that buy-in. So I think that's one of the things that I'm working on the most is in the military is very easy because you get to a certain point with someone that's in your team and you're just like, hey, look, I've explained myself. I said this several times. This is what you got to do. You're gonna go do it. You need to take care of it. That doesn't work out here. So building those relationships and buy-in is one of the things that I'm still working on instead of being so direct.
Yes, it's you're absolutely correct because I was on the other side of that coin where my boss is trying to tell me something and it's coming across so gently and so, from around the point. I'm like, what? Just effing tell me what you want me to know. I mean, I'm trying to figure out the like Scrabble pieces, put together the words you're giving me, and it takes some time to learn that lingo. You notice that too?
That's a good point. That's a really good point. Something that I'm getting used to, and I'm sure you're going to get used to too, is reading in between the lines. So in this on this side of the aisle, um, there's no, hey, you messed up, right? You're about to get fired, or it's all like, hey, look, we noticed that you're having some challenges with this. We really need you to work on this. That's reading in between the lines, like get your act together because you're on
Mhm.
the radar. So you're absolutely correct. You have to learn how to read in between the lines, especially if it's someone that's not prior military, right? Just worked in the civilian sector for a while. Read in between the lines. It may not sound as bad to you because we're used to direct, but for them, that's your warning. Like, yes, and you're absolutely correct. I'm still getting used to that as well.
Yeah, it's not like the porcupine where it's like, hey, you touch this, you're gonna get stabbed. It's like, hey, it looks like a pussy
Yeah.
cat. Like, nah, you're gonna get stabbed, dude.
Right, right.
Ashton, go ahead, ma'am.
Hey, Gary, thanks so much for coming out and talking with us. I was curious, what SkillBridge opportunities are available in your local San Antonio branch, and are you willing to be a reference for it?
Um, I'll answer the first part first. There's a lot. USAA works a lot with Hire Our Heroes, and that's kind of the platform that I use to come in. But there's so like they just released something like 11 HR positions. They're growing the HR position. We just got a new CEO, which is Juan Andrade. So there's some changes happening. But if you go to USAA Jobs, everything will be posted there. And if you're part of some other cohort, for example, you're part of HOH or whatever cohort, then there's very specific where you have to put in there HOA cohort 25-1, -2, -3, whatever that is, and see what's advertised for that. But USA is always advertising. I would advise you just to go on to their site. And while I have you there right now, is USA is very competitive. Um, it- I didn't realize how competitive it was when I actually was. I knew it was competitive, but I didn't realize how competitive it was. So there's a lot of things that you have to know. So if you go in there, make sure that you're reading the job description. Make sure that you're answering the questions they ask because they have an ATS system, which AI generates. And if you're disqualified because you didn't answer one of those questions, or you didn't tailor your resume, for example, they'll disqualify you automatically. So I would advise you go to usajobs.com and see what available. They have internships and everything that, like I said, they work heavy with Hire Heroes. We just hired a whole bunch of non-direct hires. It's like 20, it's like, I think we broke the record. 20 something non-direct hires that are doing internship through HOH or through that skill bridge with USA right now.
That's good stuff. So you found any situations where the military style decision making is still the way to go in what you're doing?
Yeah, critical critical skills, critical thinking skills are everything. And if I'm being honest, I think that there's kind of a craving for that critical thinking, those critical thinking skills that we bring, right? That we can look at a problem and we can kind of dissect it, stand out outside the box, look at the entire problem and see exactly what instead of honing in just on one part of the problem. So those are the kind of skills that every day has worked benefit. And I've been called into meetings for that reason because of our ability to kind of step back and look at the big picture from above and solve those kind of problems and bring that kind of stuff to the table. And that's what corporate America is hiring you for. When I applied and I got picked up for these jobs on the interview, 2 out of 3 jobs, because I asked them at the end, they always ask you, hey, do you got any questions? I recommend that you have questions ready. But if you have any questions, yeah, what stood out in my resume that made you think that you wanted to interview me for this? And 2 out of 3, your leadership skills. They're craving leadership skills, right? But again, it's a fine dance when you come into there to try to implement right away because you know what's right because of your experience and everything that as opposed to sitting back, listening, and then guiding the team to the decision that you made.
That's I like that question. That's a great question because you can uncover a lot and then reinforce it after they answer it. Say, well, yeah, I mean, I can see why you like that. I spent 20 years in a leadership level or whatever it is. You can kind of get that extra point in at the end while asking them a question and making them show their cards a little bit. Oh, I gotta write that down. Um, so like you mentioned, you got in through HOH. Can you walk us through the interview process? Like how did the mechanics of that work?
Yeah, so I went through there's several paths through HOH. I went through the corporate fellowship HOH program. I think they have 3 or 4 now cohorts a year, so everything has to kind of line up as far as your your date that you're going to retire and everything like that. You can do skill bridge availability because they're not going to flex those like most skill bridge that you call say, hey, would you host me as an intern for SkillBridge. HOH, the corporate fellowship that I went through is very, these are your set dates. So going through that process, just like how I was very intimidated. I didn't know nothing about really civilian side resume. I didn't know nothing about really civilian side internship. It was very different from all the internships that I held for different positions that I did in the military. Um, for me specifically, my game plan was USAA from the beginning. So I tailored a lot of my resumes toward a lot of job postings that they had available for HOH fellows. And then the way that worked for HOH corporate fellowship is you do everything up front. So I went through all the interviews. I went through 3 different interviews per role that they were interested in. And then towards getting close to the cutoff date, they'll come back if you're a direct hire, they will tell you, hey, we're going to offer you this salary, and you could actually negotiate it during that process. I did, but the only reason I negotiated it is because I knew that they knew that there was another group that wanted me at USA, so I knew I had a little bit of leverage. A lot of individuals, because USA comes with their best offer up front, will just take it. But if you have not practiced interviewing for the civilian sector, highly recommend you do. One of the great resources, and I'm sure they probably shared it with you, is Candorful. If you have not taken advantage of Candorful, I specifically went to Candorful and looked at individuals that had the experience in banking and finance in that world, and I selected them to interview me to get me prepared for the business that I wanted to go into, which was in the financial industry and banking industry.
It's interesting. Yeah, I use the resources. So when you got in front of these folks, imagine there's some civilian side, that didn't have any idea of your awards and decorations and achievements and stuff. So how'd you explain that away that clicked with them where they're like, oh, I get it now?
Yeah. So for me, I'm not recommending or advising this. This is what I did.
Yeah.
I actually went to an individual to help me write my first resume, civilian. So I submitted all my information, submitted all my EPPs, EPRs to this individual, and they came up with the first draft, and then I used that draft for it. So if you have a solid resume that you translated all your skills, even my awards. So if you have like a Saijan award, for example, some of you may have heard of that, the Saijan award. So read the description on that. It talks about leadership and all that. I recommend not putting Saijan, right? Putting, higher headquarters leadership award, right? Because Saijan is a leadership award or whatever. So that's kind of the way I translated it in my interviews.
Yeah, I just talked to a friend of mine the other day because he's got all these, he's a Green Beret, he's got all these different classes he had to do as Green Beret, and I was like, hey, look, you're looking for a civilian employer. They don't know what the heck any of that means. And I was like, here, plug it in, give it a couple commands in ChatGTP. Then it came out, leadership, logistics, project management, is all these different things that I was teaching, and all of a sudden the lights came on. I was like, oh, I get it, because it was written in real English, not mill English. And then, I handed it off to somebody else, like, oh yeah, it makes sense. I can see where the value is here, but master parachutist badge who killed 300 people a day, I don't know if we really need that in the company. So yeah,
Yeah.
full translation goes a long ways.
Some of those stories you just don't want to share in public, because for us, being in the military for so many years, we start talking about enemies killed in action and all that. I would tell you to kind of pause on that in the civilian sector. It's a cool story what you've done and everything but they're just not used to that kind of stuff. But yeah, translating is so important. AI is your tool. I used AI when I went through my program to tailor every single one of my resumes, and I got 4 out of the 6 calls for interviews. So use AI, take advantage. Everything is about AI out here too. If you're not in it yet, like I was when I was in the Air Force, about 8 months ago, AI, we're just tinkering with it. I'm telling you right now to get in there, learn it, because everything out here is about how do we leverage AI, and it could help you with your resumes. It could help you with your interviewing skills and everything.
So, yeah, truth. Looking back, is there anything you had done differently throughout the hiring process?
Yes. So I was very fortunate that it kind of worked out for me. But um, I'm going to go back to what I thought as, man, look at my resume. That's fire. Everyone's going to want to hire me, right? Um, I only applied for a handful of jobs, and I do not recommend that to anyone. I was stressed beyond me. It worked out for me, it did. But looking back, I was like, man, you're a bonehead for doing that. You should apply for as many opportunities that there are out there because of how competitive it is out here, and it really is very competitive. So if you are honing into one organization, whether it be Lockheed Martin, Honeywell, or it be USAA or Wells Fargo, cast a wide net. Don't do what I did, even though, like I said, I was fortunate that it worked out. Just cast a wide net because there's so many opportunities out there, stuff that we don't even know about. We just hear about the key players that we know over and over and over again because we're in the military. But there's so many jobs, so many companies that are growing out that I didn't know about and opportunities. So keep an open mind, cast a wide net, and listen to everyone. Regardless if you're like, I don't want to do that job, take that interview. It's just practice.
Yeah, the better you get at it, the better you're going to perform. Just like anything else, basketball, you got to shoot a zillion shots where you can nail them. So you mentioned third-party relationship manager. What does a day of doing that look like? What is that?
Um, so my portfolio, there's several portfolios. Third-party relationship manager basically is I'm working for the business. I'm working for USAA, and I'm kind of the conduit between USAA and all the third parties. So anyone that we make contracts that we have contracts with that provide a service or we provide a service to them, um, I manage all those contracts. My portfolio specifically, which is pretty awesome because I think all of you can relate to it, is the affinity portfolio. So I manage all the relationships between the academies. So you talk about West Point, you talk about Air Force Academy. Hiring our heroes is one of the contracts that fall under my portfolio. VFW, USOs, all those contracts. So I go in the morning. I'll go in like at 8:30. Yes, I know. 8:30 in the morning. I show up. I log in, and a lot of my stuff is just ongoing monitoring of different contracts. So we got contracts coming up for expiration or coming up for renewal, or if something has happened in in the economy that's making a shift are disrupting the way we do business, AI, for example, then we work with the execs from I work with the execs from the third party, so USO, and work with them to see, hey, what are you implementing? And a lot of it is monitoring risk. So we want to make sure that we're monitoring the risk between the third parties and the business, which is USAA. That USAA has continues to monitor that risk. Yeah, so that's pretty much what it is. A lot of meetings, a lot of contract negotiations, and refinement in scorecards and everything. And see how they're functioning, how they're working and operating.
Got it. Perry, you got a question, sir? Go ahead. Oh, Perry, here you go.
I'm sorry, I don't know how that happened. I must have hit a button by accident, but I didn't have a question.
Oh, okay. Well, that was that.
All right.
So, what's been your steepest learning curve these last few months? Has it been the job, the culture, the readjustment, being home at normal
The,
hours?
re- the readjustment. The readjustment. And the truth is that I never thought that that was going to be the issue that it has been, is the readjustment. It's so different. a lot of you are leaders in your positions and in your squadrons, your headquarters, wherever you're at. And there's that sense of what you're going to miss is, hey, we need your help, right? We complain about it in the military. Oh, all these emails, all these questions, everybody needs our help, and there's only so much amigo around. But that's something that has been very, very challenging actually. It's readjusting and realizing that it's not the same. I'm gonna put this plug in for everyone that's here because I know we have some E9s, some chiefs, some colonels, and some heavy hitters. Take time for yourself to transition. Do not work all the way up to the day of. If you can take some time to really focus and make a switch, because it's a major switch, take that time. And if you have the power, right, as the commander, as the SEL of your company, of your squadron, allow your members that time as well, because it's such a different transition, and everyone's gonna feel it differently. But for me, that has been one of the challenging parts, just transitioning where that everything is just civilian. Not all eyes are on you anymore. No one knows, right? Like, oh, there's Colonel B, or there's Chief, whoever, or there's Captain, Major, Commander. None of that. And that has been an eye opener for me, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, I imagine the imposter syndrome's kind of slipped in on you too. How you been handling that?
Yeah. So I've always had imposter syndrome, even in the military, right? So this is my take on imposter syndrome. If you have it, that is awesome. Just don't let it take control, right? Imposter syndrome is good if you use it to fuel you. And that's the way I use it, right? I have imposter syndrome in my position now, what I'm doing. So what I do is I do a lot of research on my own. I get in there, I read different policies, and I try to be the SME. So that's the way I use imposter syndrome. So if you have imposter syndrome, it's okay. And I think actually, if you don't have imposter syndrome, I think you may want to reevaluate um, and really consider the competition out here in the civilian sector. So use it to your advantage. Don't let it. You have everything that corporate America needs. You do. You need to believe that. You've made it this far in the military in all your different ranks, all your different titles, all your different positions. You got it, right? So imposter syndrome is a good thing. Just use it to fuel you to get better instead of to hold you back to believe that you're not good enough, because you are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it can be a tough thing to get through. I know I dealt with it and it hurt because it's like I didn't know it existed when I was dealing with it until I reached out to a buddy and I asked for some help. And he just laughed. He's like, I know what you got. And I'm like, what, dude? Tell me. And I explained it. I was like, crap, you're right.
Yeah.
Because I had no idea. That's why I bring it up pretty frequently when I have these chats, because the more knowledge, the more awareness, because it does mess with your head. So on the flip side of things, how are you building relationships? I mean, it's very different with non-military folks where, like, hey, let's go get a beer. Okay, that's out. So how are you finding some success there? Because that took some getting used to for me as well.
Yeah. In my experience, there's a lot of we clock in, we clock out, right? We have a relationship at work,
Yeah.
but then off work, everyone does their own thing. They got their family and everything else. So that's very different from what I'm used to as far as being in the military and being next to our brothers and sisters that have been through everything with us. So I go back to networking with individuals that's kind of similar, that been through the stuff that I've been through and everything like that. Um, but as far as in the civilian sector, as far as building those, I'm still working on that, right? I'm fresh out.
Yeah.
I just retired in December. So building those meaningful relationships that we're used to, right? Where you know that that person next to you could bury you just like you could bury them. Lack of words, right? They know everything about you. You know everything about them. You'll just build that bond. That takes a lot more time in the military and in the civilian sector. And just realize that a relationship at work is not necessarily the same relationship that you're going to have outside of work. It's very different.
Yeah, you're not all, doing a monthly burger burn with a squadron or battalion or something like that, where, things get real. It just doesn't exist. It's like as soon as you're out the door, you never think about that person again. So
Correct. Yep.
yeah, it's a bit different. So I mean, have you seen some similarities between the USA's corporate structure and then the military structure, like in the Air Force side?
I have um, almost everything that we do. USA has extremely high standards, which is good, right? It's good for our members and everything like that, that we have high standards. And but we everything is about our services at USA, everything. For example, we celebrated the Army's birthday that was a couple of weeks ago, right? We celebrated the Coast Guard. They're doing a thing that's called Zero Dark 30, for example, right? Where civilians in USA get to go to basic training for a day. They bring in the military, the TIs and instructors from Lackland, and they have a day where they get up at 3 o'clock in the morning and the whole thing. All right, let's say it's about 50% of what we've been through. But USAA, everything is its members. Everything that we do is to get to know our members better. They hire a lot of military for that reason, because we bring that experience to tie back to our members. So as far as transitioning from the military to USAA, a lot of similarities, a lot of similarities.
Yeah, I'm just imagining like some of the incredibly creative insults that I heard slung around during boot camp, trying to be used on a regular Joe civilian USA, going like, hell with this, I'm taking a day of leave, I'm out of here. It had
Yeah,
to be entertaining to observe.
50%. Yeah, it's not what we've been through, but it's good because it teaches, this is what our members go through, right? And it's maybe not as robust as what we're used to, but at least we got a company that's saying, hey, this is who you're serving, right? Like these are our members, this is what they go through in their life and their lifetime.
In the meantime, Becky from HR is going, exactly. So, I mean, what's one thing you wish you had started earlier on your transition to prep you? Because there's usually something.
I would say LinkedIn, but I think most now have LinkedIn. As far as I created LinkedIn back in 2013, right, and didn't touch it.
Same.
So I think LinkedIn was, and I see that now. I see the same things that I did. I think maybe you put my name out there saying, hey, he's going to be briefing. So all of a sudden, I had a flood of LinkedIn requests, right? I did the same thing. That's good. Nothing wrong with that. But I think networking and getting out there and not just creating the LinkedIn, but networking, contacting those individuals. Don't be like me where you're shy or you don't want to send a direct message because you never met this person, you have a relationship. Send it. Send that message, ask for help. You'll be very surprised how many of us really, really want to help because we never forgot where we came from. Right. So but that would be it. Reaching out sooner rather than later than the last minute. Reach out and get prepared. And I'll add one last thing, interviewing skills. All right. I don't care how great your resume is. If you don't get in there and interview and just knock it out of the park, that is where a lot of opportunities are missed, is not being fully prepared for an interview.
Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna go bear hunting, don't bring a 22.
Right.
Bring in something bigger. So how do you keep yourself grounded during all of this? What keeps you from flying off the handle or keeps you calm and cool and moving forward?
It goes back to really realizing what you bring to the table, because that is something that a lot of us, we grew up in an environment where it's about we, the team. You give all credit to your team and everything like that. I think what has kept me grounded, and every now and then when I feel overwhelmed, I look back on my career in the military and said, if I was able to manage to move in my career in the military, then I'm able to do this. I'm good enough, right? You got to continue to remind yourself that, because there's going to be a lot of times where you're not going to feel like that. I'm telling you right now, it's going to be when you submitted your resume and when you didn't receive any calls for your interviews. That's when it's going to start creeping in. Like, oh, maybe I am not good enough, or maybe I don't have what it takes. You do, right? Every no is close to one more yes. So you have to continue to tell yourself, if I was successful in the military, with all the demands that the military has, right, of being dang near perfection at what you do, you are prepared for this, right? So just remind yourself that you have what it takes to make it out here, because you do. You do.
Yeah. This is my last one, and so what's one piece of advice you give to everybody to start their, about starting their civilian career after leaving the military?
Go in there as a learner. Any position, any job, go in there as a learner. Don't, again, I can't foot stomp this enough. Leave your rank. No one cares.
Nope.
I've been in several situations where we're having, a conversation, and we always go in, yeah, when I was this or that. Got to be very careful with your rank. So go in there as a learner. When you go in there, just take some time, let them speak, understand the culture, understand what's going on before you interject, and slowly interject your skills, your abilities, and everything like that. But that would be my advice, is just humility, and go in there humble, and just understand that you're a learner. The best advice that I ever got, it was at Cluckers, which is a chicken place, wings. I was sitting there waiting on my wings, and there's this gentleman from corporate America, and I could tell that he was high up because he was talking, the way he was talking, and everything. That he's sitting next to me, and we started a conversation. And I was like, "Yeah, I'm getting out of the military. And what did you do?" He works for the Air Force. He was a civilian for many years. Now he's doing this big job for Air Force. And I was like, Air Force and everything. He goes, "Here's my piece of advice. You may have been a chief in the Air Force, but you're an E3 in corporate America." That is true.
Mm-hmm.
And when I realized what he meant by that, just sit back, be quiet, and learn. Because I knew everything they needed to know about the Air Force, everything they needed to know about what a chief does in the Air Force or whatever. Corporate America, I was at E3, and I'm still learning. So if you go in with that mentality, it's going to be great.
Yeah, one of my favorites that guys would say is sometimes they show up at a base is, well, that's not how we did it when I was with blah blah blah. Never utter those words.
Right.
Because otherwise you'd still be at blah 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 if it was so great. Yeah, I'm sure you've seen that one more than once too.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I have.
And it goes over like gas in a spacesuit. So
Doesn't work.
Don't
Doesn't
do
work.
it. Nope. So I mean, we're up against the clock here, but I want to give you a second. Any parting thoughts you'd like to share with anybody, or if anybody's got any questions, now's the time.
Yeah,
Alex.
so go ahead. Go ahead, Alex.
Go ahead, Alex, man.
You put yourself back on mute.
All right, is that better?
There we go.
All right, sorry. You mentioned, well, thanks for coming on here. This is really good. And the part that you said about putting out resumes and just not getting anything, I'm kind of in that spot right now, and I'm feeling that frustration. And I asked in the chat because I'd never heard of what imposter syndrome was. And like when it was explained in the chat, I was like, I think I've had this for like the last 10 years, because I've been like, I'm pretty hard on myself. And it's like, just hearing or just not hearing any responses from any resumes that I had put out, kind of like drove that into, it made it seem more real, right? That I was kind of struggling, but I think I found the answer with AI. I'm starting to use AI and trying to tailor resumes to fit the job description. But my question was, what I wanted to ask is, you mentioned Candorful is it Candorful?
Wonderful.
Is that a website to like help you with like your interview skills or?
Yeah, so you just Google Canderful. It's a team, and all they do, they have I'm on there as well as an interviewer now, but they provide you up to three free interviews, and you select who you want to be your interviewer. So I highly recommend that. I would probably stay away. I would probably try to look in the business that you're trying to go into, or the realm that you're trying to go. To transition into. Look into that, look at their recommendation and everything that, and pick the ones that you think are going to be the hardest. And I highly recommend that at least pick one or two civilians because they'll tell you their history, right? If they have prior military. I did a prior military one, and then I did two that they'd have no idea about prior military. They're just wanting to help the military, so they volunteered their times. And they're CEOs, they're executives, they're vice presidents, they're presidents of their in their realm. So it's such an awesome um, tool that you have for free to use, and that was a game changer for me going in there, especially with a couple of civilians that's been in the business that I wanted to go into for decades. And it was a lot of hard truths that I needed to hear. Yeah.
That's cool. I'm going to check that out.
Okay.
Thanks. So your parting thoughts, sir?
Yes. Look, you have this. You're gonna feel at times deflated, just sending out, waiting for interviews, not getting interviews and everything like that. There's going to be times where you're going to feel like you're not good enough. There's going to be times where imposter syndrome is going to want to take over. Don't allow it to. Just let it motivate you. Um, Again, AI. Leverage AI in what you're doing. Right? It's if you're just tailoring your resumes, hand jamming, tailoring it, I highly recommend this. If you don't know how to do it, you pull up the job, you pull up the requirements. It's usually tell you these are the basic requirements that you have to have. And then it'll tell you these are the nice to have, right? That set you apart. Right. And you just copy and paste that entire thing, slap it in AI, slap your resume in AI, said, tailor this for this job. And AI is gonna give you it. Now, don't just copy what AI gave you and send it off. Go over it, make sure that everything lines up and you're hitting the mark as far as that goes. But believe in yourself. Reach out for help. I'm on LinkedIn. This is not my first interview that I've had, or my first brief I had. I've had it with HOH. A lot of them have hit me up, and I've helped them navigate through resumes and interviews and everything like that. But you got what it takes, and understand that there's going to be rejection, right? And you will feel deflated, but every no is going to be you're one step closer to a yes. And your skills and your abilities and your leadership and your critical thinking skills are desperately needed out here. In fact, what I've noticed, they don't want to take that on. They're just comfortable doing their job. Where we are like, we're gonna do our job and more. So head up, look me up on LinkedIn if you need anything or have need any advice, or if you're thinking about USAA, hit me up for sure, because I'll tell you the ins and outs as how to make sure that you try to get through the ATS system and everything like that. So.
It's awesome. Hey, thank you very much for your time, Gary. I very much appreciate it. Gary Borden of USAA, retired Air Force Chief Master Sergeant who no longer uses the rank. Smart man. And then I thank you once again for your time, and we'll be back here at the top of the hour with the next speaker. Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Y'all have a great one. God bless, and I hope everything works out. Hit me up if you need anything.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep. Yep. Raymond, I see that.
Oh, I was just about to tell you, try it a couple times because it did the same thing to me.
Yeah, I got it. I got it a couple times too.
Yeah, cool. I'm gonna jump out for the next one. See you, bud.
All right, buddy. Appreciate you.
Hey Matt, while we're waiting, you mind if I ask you a question?
Yeah, go for it.
So last Thursday there was a job fair and we were all in here and you said, hey, everybody, let's leave this Zoom call and join live.
Uh-huh.
Well, I went to I'm an Allegiant Vets SkillBridger, so I went to the Allegiant Vets Discord and saw Allegiant Vets live, and it was